Good morning. Welcome to this session. And in particular, we have a theme about feet and toes and the big toe. So I thought it would be very good idea to start the session seated and give a little kind of special indulgence to our feet while we're seated. So I'm on a bolster. In the way of props for today, you could have a couple of your yoga blocks and blankets. It's a little chilly on the eastern seaboard of Australia this morning, so blankets will come in handy for the relaxation for sure. Um, what else have I got? That's probably it for today. So once you're seated, get comfortable enough so that you can, in cross-legged, for instance, lift one foot and turn the foot so your sole of your foot is facing you. And then just do a little stroking from your toes to your heel, like that. Along the way, you get to appreciate how many foot bones you have there, from the toes to the heel. And then once you've done that, grab hold, just cup your hands around the um, big toe and little toe side of your foot and manipulate your feet. I don't know how to describe that any other way, so that you're just moving, especially the forefoot and the toes, from the middle toe to the outside of your toes in that manner. And then we'll do maybe just one more movement here, which I call cranking, which is for the ankle bones. And if you get a grip onto your toes over the top, and your thumb around the outside, and then circle your foot. And yeah, I think in the Pawan Muktasana series, this is called cranking your ankle. Doesn't sound very nice, does it? And once you've done that, then that foot resting. And I was just noticing when I placed my foot onto my leg, balanced it there, that my ankles are a bit bony. So if you have a blanket nearby, you might place that over your thigh where you rest your foot, or you might not need that at all, but that actually feels a lot nicer. So on the second foot, you're going to stroke from the toes and the balls of the foot down to the heel. That seems like a good direction to go. When we traveled in the Kimberley in Australia, we walked in very red dirt of that area, just kind of a beautiful orangey color, or they call it red dirt. And the heels would get very dried out, and so we'd use a heel balm on our heels when we would come back from bushwalking. Then taking the sides of the foot, so cupping your hands around the outside of your big toe and your little toe, and then just manipulating your forefoot, your toes a little bit. And then finally that cranking movement. So cup your hands over the top of your toes and turn. It's not just your ankle that's rotating, it's your foot bones and your toes too. And then we can go the other way. You could do all of this with a little bit of moisturizer on your hands, which would be even more indulgent. So let's move on with this awareness of our feet to a kneeling position on the mat. As soon as I put my feet down from standing, I can feel them more than I might have otherwise. So come to all fours kneeling on your mat. And do take a little bit of extra padding, maybe doubling up your mat if you need that underneath your knees. And from here, we're just in neutral position. And now we'll work through the spinal column, and with the breath in particular. On an exhalation, draw your navel up towards your spine and round your back up towards the ceiling and your chin towards your chest. On an inhalation, open your chest forward, and we'll work through that possible flexion and extension of the spine, just in a really gentle way to start with. Now we can change the emphasis and arriving in neutral spine where the back is like a tabletop, nice and straight. Then lean into the right side, right hand and right knee. A little drift to the right side, and then through the center and back to the left side, left hand, left knee. Let's go right and left like that, where basically the movement is about weight shifting to one side and then the other. So you're asking more work through your wrist bones and your arm muscles. These are strengthening movement for your arms, for your hands. And then let's take a break from that and come down onto elbows so the wrists get to extend. And then turn your palms up towards the ceiling. Have a good look at all of your digits and stretch from your little finger to your thumb. Open up the mound of the thumb well. Press your hands down, the backs of your hands, that is. And then back to kneeling. And we'll alternate with a few hand exercises like that as we go along. And then straightening through your elbows. And then a little forward momentum. So kind of your chest coming forward with a chest stretch forward. And then rolling back. Round your back. Open up your back nice and wide. And move your buttocks towards your heels, chin towards your chest. Float forward, just a little movement forward, and then back. And let's keep doing this weight shifting in this manner. So the weight shifts towards your hands, and then back towards your hips and your legs. And developing a deeper crease at the fold of the hips. Not quite to child's pose. We're really concentrating on the upper part of the back. And then drag yourself forward. And let's take a break for your wrists again. And either sitting onto your heels, or you can be up kneeling if that is better for you. Interlock your hands. And imagine that you've got a tennis ball size distance between your palms. And then just pull a little bit with your fingers. Stretch out through your elbows. Change the way you interlocked your hands. You've got that space between your palms. Your wrists are apart too. And then the elbows at shoulder height, pushing out to the elbows and pulling lightly with the fingers. And then let's back onto kneeling. And we'll do a hover. So tuck your toes under. Keep your weight towards the big toe rather than the little toe, so the heels are not splayed, they're still straight back. And then press lightly into your hands, and with your core muscles, lift up your knees just a couple of inches off the floor. And lower back down. Let's say it's an exhalation, strong exhalation, lifting and lowering. Exhale and press away through your hands, straighten through your elbow joint, and then coming down to ground, straighten your feet back behind you and lower your buttocks back towards your heels. Come down onto your elbows once more, flip your hands over, and open and close your hands a few times. You can do that as lightly or as strongly as your hands like to be doing this movement. And back to all fours kneeling. Step your right hand forward so that it's a hand distance in front of your left hand. Your hands are still separated shoulder width distance. And then let's see what that this movement is like for you. You're going to lift your right knee and your left hand, avoiding a sway to the side as much as possible. Left hand down, right knee down. Draw your right hand back and then bring your left hand forward. Good. Use your belly muscles here, your core muscles. And then we've got right hand, left knee coming up. I know it's a little bit of a brain boggle. And placing those back onto the floor. Let's go 2 more rounds. So right hand forward, left knee comes up. Right hand knee comes up, left hand. Back to ground. Shift and change and left hand forward, right hand lifted, left knee, and replacing. And 1 more round each side. Right hand forward, stretch that right arm long, and right knee, left hand. Good. Strong abdominal muscles. Left hand down, right knee. Draw your right hand back. Left hand, step it forward, straighten that arm, and right hand, left knee, and back. And take a break, and buttocks back towards your heels. Draw your elbows back towards your knees. And maybe stack your hands up so that in light fists, one hand on top of the other, and rest your head for a moment. Relax your shoulders. You've been working through your upper arms and your upper back in these movements. All right, the last in the sequence, bring your hands down and back to cat pose. We'll do a movement for your low back and your hips. Bring your right hip towards your right shoulder, and then you might rotate your neck and look back. Center the hips, left hip towards your left shoulder, and looking back towards that hip. And then let's go slowly, each side, and explore the movement so that it feels like what you're doing is appropriate for your body, your own anatomy at the moment. So it might be a bigger movement or a smaller movement, quite small movement. And last one. And let's center and come back to preparation for downward facing dog pose. Tuck your toes under, lift your upper spine up towards the ceiling, round through your upper back and your shoulders, and begin to lift your knees slowly and come back into your version of down dog. And that might be with your knees bent or your heels elevated. And from here, let's pedal. So one heel down, the other heel up, and back and forth. And let's go slowly. Some deeper breaths. And enjoying that sensation of the hips sway, the sway through the hips, probably the mid-back, shoulders too. And then bringing ourselves to a steady, still position in downward facing dog pose. Then lift your heels, lift up high, shift your weight towards the base of the big toe. When you look back at your feet, they might be, the legs might be bent, they might be straight, but the heels are and feet are almost perpendicular. You're getting a very strong toe stretch. And then let's move out of downward facing dog pose. Heels come down, take a walk forward, and come up very slowly from Uttanasana to standing. Very good. And I'm going to just put my mat off my floor space so I can stand a little bit more steadily on the floor rather than on my mat, because we're going to do some balancing exercises. So starting with Tadasana, your feet a little bit apart, soft behind your knees. Come to steady yourself with your arms extended lightly by your side, standing tall. And from here, let's do the chair pose. So hinging from the hip fold, bend the knees forward, bring your trunk slightly forward, and bring the arms up alongside the ears. Extend the arms out well through the elbows. Lift your tailbone a little bit. And then reaching for the ceiling and straightening the legs. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, arms down to your side. Let's work a little bit with arm stretch. I'm just feeling I'd like to warm up through my upper body a little bit more. Bringing your arms up straight alongside your head. And then let's stretch alternate sides. So we get a lateral movement. And one arm up and stretching and down and opposite arm. This feels so good along the sideline of my body and reaching. And then lowering your arms back to where you started. And then let's take chair pose again with that little bit of extra work and folding, bending the knees, folding forward, and then extend the arms out without bringing them back. So your upper arms are alongside your ears. Reach a little bit more from the little finger side of your hand. Open all your fingers and stretch. And then this time, let's come up onto the balls of our feet. Lift your heels. And use their inner thigh muscles. Press your thighs towards each other without bringing them together. And then rise up, straight legs, and all the way up. And exhale, arms and heels come down. Good. We're going to do that again in just a moment, but to pay a little more attention to our feet and our toes. Have a look at your toes and work in this manner. Lift your little toes and then your next toes and then finally your big toes. And then in reverse, big toes down, middle toes and little toes. Do that a few times. It's very good for me to use my visual sense to see what I'm asking my toes to do. But then eventually, let's see if we can just feel and practice our kinesthetic sense, lifting our toes from the little toe side to the big toe side and then back down again. Notice if you're tensing up in your upper body, trying to figure out how to do this better or some other way. And then all 5 toes, each foot back on the floor, extend them forward. And then let's see what it's like to do this last round of chair pose. And then flexing your knees, folding forward, bring your arms up, stretch your arms out straight so you have a little feeling of lightness in the upper part of our body, and then lift up those heels. Can you stay gravitating towards the base of the big toe? And then rise up and reach up and lower back down. Okay. And then maybe give your front of your feet a bit of a shake out, one foot and then the other. Good job. Our feet are, I think of them as our faithful servants. They're just there to be called on for whatever we want to do. And from here, let's do, let's see, an asymmetrical stance. So step your right foot back behind you, but not too far. So maybe a half a meter, not too far. And then standing in this way, there's a little distance between the tops of your thighs. So your left foot a little bit to the right, your right foot a little bit to the left foot to the left, right foot to the right. From here, balance the weight between the both feet. Bring your hands onto your hips. And then lift your back heel and bring weight to bear onto the base of your right foot big toe. Lift that heel. You might begin to feel a stretch. I can certainly feel this at the front of my right hip. So it's a hip extension movement. And then lower that heel down and see what you could do about lifting just your big toe. I think for me that's almost impossible. There's not very much, but there's a connection that's happening even if it doesn't lift. And then lift the heel once more, press into the big toe, give a good bit of pressing down movement to the base of the big toe, and then lower the heel again. And try that one more time. Right foot, big toe coming up, not much movement there. And then step up right foot to left foot. And left foot back. Good. Steady your balance so it's pretty equally divided between the right foot and the left foot. And then lift up the left heel. Good. Add pressure to that left foot big toe. See if you can bring attention to the stretch at the front of the hip as well. Lower the heel. And then see how you go on this side. Maybe this side's a little bit more responsive in lifting the left foot big toe. And then lift that heel again. That foot's almost perpendicular. Roll in slightly to the base of the big toe. Lower the heel down. Lift that big toe, perhaps, maybe not. And then left foot to right foot and back into your Tadasana stance. Let's do something that asks you to balance a little bit more in these movements. And right foot steps back. And what you're going to do is you're going to step forward of the left foot and cross the midline of your body. And it looks like this. You're bringing the back foot forward, across, and stepping a little bit out from your left foot. And then find your balance there. Good. And then step that foot back to where you started. You might lose your balance along the way. And then let's do that again. And crossing that leg over and stepping back. And one more time. The front knee bends a little bit and you bring that leg across that midline. And this time step the feet into one line where you started. Second side. And left foot back. Okay, feel the whole forefoot and heel and toes, and then cross over. just pause there for a second, weight on both feet as much as you can, and bring that leg back. Good. See if you can do this in a steady movement and with your breath still, and cross over. And back. Good. And one more crossover. And feet into a line. Okay, so it's a very simple exercise, but it challenges your balance. You can get onto it pretty quickly though. And now let's bring right foot back and add one more element to challenge your balance. So we're bringing the back foot across the midline like you've done. Lovely. And then from here, just rest your right hand onto the front of your right thigh. Raise your left arm, turn it in, spiral it in, and do a lean out towards the right side. So a little bit more of that lateral line of your body opening up. Good. Relax the opposite shoulder. And then we're coming out of this, and we're going to step the foot all the way back as we lower the arm. And like I said, it's a challenge. And let's go back and repeat that movement because it was so lovely. And right foot across to the left, right hand, right thigh, left arm up, and do your lean out. Good. Notice if you're clenching your toes. And is it absolutely necessary that you do that? And we're going to come out and bring that leg back and your arm down to your side. And stepping the feet into one line, and one more side to go. And I think we're doing, for the most part, very well. And we're going to take left leg back. Just lean into it a little bit. Feel the whole pad of the toes, the heel, both feet, and then the crossover. Lovely. Left hand onto your left thigh. Bring your right arm up. Good. And reach to the left. And we're unwinding here, and that arm comes down and the leg steps back. Very good. Or pretty good. Or needs work. And left leg forward and across. Beautiful. Left hand, left leg, right arm up. Do your lean across. Good. Keep that left shoulder relaxed. And we're going to bring the leg back, so it's good to plan your route here. And right arm comes down, left leg comes back. Beautiful. And then step up and give everything a shake out. So you probably were concentrating very strongly for that. Let's do one more balancing exercise because we've done all this groundwork, literally. And we're going to balance on one leg. So you might need to be near to the wall. I don't know. I've got walls all around me. I'm quite safe here. We're going to balance with our feet just a little bit apart to start with on our left foot. And merely lift your right heel and keep lifting it up so you get a feeling of a rolling action towards the base of the toes and even the backs of the toes. And then lift the knee. And then returning right foot toes towards the floor, then the forefoot, and then the middle of the foot and the heel coming down. So we're doing this really slowly. And then let's see what that's like on the left leg. And the heel comes up, and you're towards the forefoot and the toes, and the knee comes all the way up. And balance in just at one leg, and then slowly lowering your toes, and then the forefoot, and then the midfoot and the heel. Midfoot, I've never used that expression before. And then let's go right side again. Slow, slow. And coming up. Knee maybe all the way in line, but no higher than your hip. And slowly coming down. And that rolling action going through all those 26 bones of your feet. And other side, and slowly rolling up. The balancing part, one-legged balancing. Beautiful. And coming back down a little bit, and then a little bit more, and all the way down. All right, let's challenge ourselves with one more element added to this. So heel of your right foot coming up, balance on your left leg. Beautiful. And what would happen if we bring the left arm forward? So we're doing a contralateral movement. And then your foot comes down and your arm comes down. And if we switch, we're going to bring the left leg up, and balance on the right leg, and bring the right arm forward. And if we do this with a little bit more alacrity, acceleration, then pretty soon, I don't know, what do we call this? Walking in space? Moonwalking? I don't know. I don't know if I can talk and do this at the same time. And let's go through one more cycle. Good. And finishing. And maybe just pat down your legs. Quads. Adductors. Abductors. Good. Shake your feet out. Very well done. Let's take that into one of the classic standing poses, and that would be Warrior One pose. I'm going to make a little room here at the wall and bring up one of my yoga blocks. All right, now I've got space. So I'm going to take a block, and in Warrior One, we step right foot forward and left foot back. So we're going to be a little bit wider in the distance between our feet. And I've probably got a meter's distance now. If you wanted to do a toe stretch here, you could lift your toes up onto the skirting board and all 5 toes up onto the skirting board, and then roll in towards the big toe joint with that arch of that foot still lifted. So that gives me a little bit more work to do. Or you can have your foot flat on the floor. Then take your block, and it's going to interface between the wall and your right knee. Not a lot of pressure. I like this way of working at the wall and with the block because it reminds me to keep this thigh bone back into the hip. And then the wall is there for me to balance well. My hands onto the wall, but also if my hands are on the wall out from my shoulders, it reminds me to lift my chest. And then the back leg, I'm going to turn the left hip slightly forward and draw the right leg, femur, back into the hip socket. And that's a nice movement. You could walk your hands up the wall a little bit more, moving into the arm extension, mainly as a way to lift and open the chest and stretch the collarbones and feel into the back leg. And then, pretty simple, change sides. So steady balance, left foot forward, my toes up on the skirting board, and the block placed as it was on the other side. So see if you can connect with some sensations here. What's it like when you draw the left thigh back into its housing, into the hip socket, and then extending through the right hip with your hands to remind you to lift and open the chest. And then bring the hands up a little bit higher. Keep drawing that left thigh bone back and still higher if you can. Lift and open the collarbones out towards the tips of your shoulders. And then release your hands down and take away the block. And let's just take a little step back from the wall. And right foot forward, left foot back. And then see what we can do to remind ourselves of all of those adjustments without using the props. So bend your right leg and work away to extend the left hip. Keep drawing the right thigh bone back. Another way to think of that is to draw the right groin more deeply, or the adductor muscles into the pelvis. And then let's add the arm movement and stretch up. Feel the back leg as you extend the front of the hip. And tilt your chin up and look up and stretch up. And lowering the arms and step up and left foot back. I noticed I just reached for the wall a couple of times when I step back as I'm talking. But work away on your balance so that you feel balanced here to start with on both feet, right foot, left foot, and then bend into your left leg. And that strong movement through the inner thigh back towards the pelvis, the thigh bone back into the hip, and the arms come up, and we're reaching up. And that back leg is reaching down and the heel down. Can you feel the back foot, big toe, front foot, big toe joint? And then lower your arms, straighten the leg, and step up once more. Let's add to what we're doing a little bit more one-legged balancing. And this movement will be in Warrior 3 pose at the wall. So come to your wall space, bring your hands onto the wall, out from your ribs or out from your hips. Place your hands flat onto the wall and then start to step back as you straighten the arms and fold at the hinge joint until you get a right angle at the hips. And actually this is a really nice beginning because you're just stretching out the back as well. Tilt the buttock bones up towards the ceiling. Where are we working? Initially, the knees might be bent, but you can still tilt the buttock bones up from the backs of your knees to your buttock bones, upward direction. And then bring your feet all the way together. Shift your weight onto your left foot and bring your right foot back behind you so your toes are on the floor. You can duck your head and look back at that position. So your right foot toes onto the floor. Your tailbone still lifting. And then step up again. Let's take left foot back. And the left foot's going to be on the floor, but it's back of your right foot. And you can see all the 5 toes there. And stepping up. And now we're ready to raise that leg into Warrior 1 pose. Balance your weight onto your left foot. I meant Warrior 3 pose. And bring that right leg behind you. You might look at your foot, point your toes down, but lift your right heel. your right leg. Notice if the weight shifted on your shoulders, and keep the shoulders parallel. And bring your right leg back down. Your feet in a line. Pause, consolidate. You're going to keep the weight-bearing leg a little bit bent. So bend that right knee slightly. Press into your inside of your foot, your big toe base and your inner heel, and slowly lift your left leg. We're lifting the leg, but not the hip. So as much as you can, and again, using your kinesthetic sense, the pelvis parallel with the ceiling. And then lower back down. Take a break, take a little walk in, give your arms a rest, shake out your hands, shake out your elbows. And we'll have one more round. And we'll see how we go for balancing our weight rather than on the flat of our palms onto our fingertips. So starting with the hands out from the chest. Mine are pretty well in line with my shoulders. And then stepping back. Lift the tailbone. Flex the left knee slightly. Press into your weight bearing onto the inside of your left foot as you raise your right leg. Left foot, big toe, inner left heel, and the right leg. Now, duck your head, look back at your right foot, turn your toes down, and then use that sense, your body sense, and keep the right hip as much as you can tell. You can't see it, even with the left hip. And then lower back down. You might be lifting the leg a little or a little bit more. That's up to you. But keeping that alignment. Right knee bends a little bit. And balance your weight onto the inside of your foot, big toe and inner heel. As you raise the right leg behind you, I'm going to flex my left foot and point the toes down and bring the weight to the inside of my right foot again. And releasing that leg down and ready to step up. And good work. And we could, just for the fun of it here, see what it's like to free balance in Warrior 3 pose. Not too serious, we could be playful about it. And let's give it a go. So standing on your mat, now away from the wall, step right foot forward, left foot back. And it's going to go like this. Bring your arms up alongside your ears. Bend your front knee. So the approach for Warrior 3 is through Warrior 1 pose with the front leg bent. And then we're going to push off the back leg and raise that leg. And bring it back down. Good. So as we come forward, the front leg is straightening out of Warrior 1 to Warrior 3. I still have my wall next to me, thank goodness. And back down. And third time. And back down. Straight front leg. Let's go in reverse. Step left foot to right and right foot back. So we're not too worried about perfection or alignment here. We're just moving and lifting that back leg, maybe keeping it up, maybe not, and back down and forward and lifting the leg. And back to ground and releasing and stepping up. Well done. And yeah, so all of those early movements leading you to the Warrior Three pose. And you can play with that to any extent that you want to, and also hold it for longer as you develop this strength to do that. Let's take a seated position now and back onto your support. Extend your legs out in front of you. One of the movements that we didn't do earlier was the ankle stretch in plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. So with your legs slightly apart and stretching the front of your foot, your ankle, and toes down, and then toes back towards your knees. And working toes down, toes back. And then separate your feet just a little bit more so you've got space to rotate your feet and your ankles. I have a little bit of arthritis in my left ankle, probably more than a little bit. And so these are really excellent movements for those ankle bones. And the more that I move, and within reason, the less restriction that I have in that. So we never give up. And then bend your legs and come to cross-legged. We're going to do a lying down movement, a pose called Setubandha shortly. Before we do, I thought we'd do a breathing exercise, as we didn't start with a breathing exercise today. And this is a very simple one. So, in your cross-legged position, bring your hands over to your left leg and place your right hand onto your left hand. Draw yourself up nice and tall, and then draw your chin down towards your chest. So a little neck movement there, chin down. And then we're going to open that right arm out as you lift it out towards the right side. And then with your line of vision, follow and look along and have a look at your thumb. And then bring that back to the starting position and dipping your chin down again. And let's do that several times. Your elbow stays bent. The raised arm elbow stays bent. And it's very graceful and flowing movement. But the main thing is your breath. You might start your breath a little bit before you start the movement. And take in a little bit more breath as you stop that movement on the inhalation. And then exhale starts. And you bring your arm back. And once the movement stops, then finishing with a little bit more exhalation and swapping sides. And both hands resting onto your right knee, left hand on top of the right hand, chin down. And then let's do this longer inhalation. After the movement stops, still inhaling a little bit. Exhale starts, the movement starts. Keep your right shoulder relaxed. And then let's take pause there, and one hand each knee, and extend out the legs again. So I thought A nice pose to finish the session with would be Setu Bandha using the bolster. And sometimes we call this a kind of chest opener or a heart opening. And I have my 2 blocks that I'm going to place at the wall. When I'm lying down, my feet are going to be up on the blocks and my torso supported onto the bolster. So let me show the setup first. It looks approximately like that. A little distance between the bolster and the blocks. When I sit down and straddle my feet on either side of the bolster, I'm just about in the middle of the bolster when I'm seated, and then using my hands to lower down slowly, because basically I'm coming into a back bending position. And the blocks are there for you to rest your feet on, but you might find that you want to keep your feet on the floor alongside the bolster. So this is a passive back bend, a restorative back bend. And what it does for you is it opens up that upper part of your back in particular. But if it's too strong for you or for your lower back, then do keep your feet on the floor alongside your bolster. So adjust according to your needs. And for me, my legs extended and supported on the block is at the wall. Then what do we do with the arms here? That question of what to do with the arms. They're like Shavasana as I have them now. A little space between the upper ribs and the upper arms. A stronger stretch and opening comes from having the elbows crooked and the arms as though cactus pose, elbows bent, crooked. Or even your arms overhead, the elbows softly bent, and one hand resting into the other. I'm going to leave my arms like this for the time being. It gives me a greater opening through my chest. And today, and at this moment, that feels really good. But it also has lifted my rib cage. So I've probably exaggeratedly thrust my ribs forward. So I'm going to encourage my ribs to rest down and inward towards my upper abdomen. So that relieves any tension in the rib box. And we'll stay a few minutes quietly. Feel into that strong stretch of the frontal body, the front line of the body. And create as much release as you can as you come across any discomfort or any tension anywhere in your position. Begin to take a few deeper breaths in anticipation of moving, but without coming off the bolster support as yet. Then bend up your legs and place the feet on either side of the bolster without doing anything else just yet. We're just going to consolidate with each movement. And what you can do here is slide back towards the end of the bolster to come down. Move your buttocks back and back. Or press your feet and lift your hips and draw the bolster out to the side. That's what I'm going to do. And in any case, lowering down until your buttocks are on the floor. And your legs are still bent. Bring your hands to rest onto your torso. And take time to feel the results of that chest, that heart opening. And from here, we'll move into the yoga relaxation. So take any and all props that you need for your utmost relaxation. And I encourage you to have an eye covering. You could cover your eyes with a yoga blanket, or even better, eye pillow. The bolster could be helpful here in placing it underneath the backs of your knees. I have a folded blanket for a pillow. And I've prepared well, so I have another blanket to cover feet to chest. And don't stint. Use any of the props, the soft props. Use a little bit of time for settling in through the back of your body, into those soft props, into the floor. And give yourself the time and the space to get comfortable. And once you've closed your eyes, whether you have an eye covering or not, relax your eyelids down to your eyelashes. Feel your the organs of the eyes settle back into their nests, drop back and float in the eye sockets, relaxed, unfocused, unmoving. And tune in to your breathing cycles as they are just now in this moment. I don't know why it is, but often our attention goes towards betterment in one way. We want to change the breath in some way that we think would improve it. And it's quite a challenge just to notice the breath in its natural rhythm without any need to change anything about it. And with every breath, possibly a little bit more letting go on the exhaling part of the breath. Softening, settling, releasing, quietening, creating your own sanctuary away from the stimulation of the world. If you've been mindful of your breath until this moment, then the breath is a vehicle to go more inward. But ultimately, you can let go of the sense of the body, even the sense of the breath, and just be quiet, peaceful. Shortly we will be active once more and moving. And we might start that with some little movements through the feet and the toes. So opening and closing the spaces between the toes. And a little bit of rotation through your feet. And then your hands might imitate that, opening and closing. And touching each finger. A little movement through the head, side to side. And gradually moving on to one side with the legs bent in anticipation of coming up. Let's sit together to complete the session. Take a little care to sit yourself up on your sitting bones. Relax your hands onto your legs and sit tall, tall and pretty. And bring your hands into prayer position in front of your chest. Feel that as an action, as a gesture that draws you near to yourself. Your hands touching the breastplate, the heart center. And incline your head towards your heart as you elevate it. Feel your own kindness and goodness that we gather together, we invest in ourselves through the yoga practice and to share with other people. Namaste. Thank you.